Good day to you, brothers, sisters, friends, and new faces, and welcome. Welcome to Current Events and Christian Expectations. Today we continue our walk through the book of Revelation, and we arrive at chapter 18, the fall of Babylon. It's the picture of a human civilization organized apart from God, and this chapter exposes the illusion that worldly systems are permanent. It reminds us all that no kingdom built on pride, corruption, or self-worship can ultimately stand before God. So grab your Bibles, turn to Revelation chapter 18, and let's just dig right in.
Hey, thanks, Randy, for introducing another installment of summaries of the chapters of the book of Revelation, not chasing trees or theological controversies, just trying to give everybody an understanding of basically where it starts, where it goes, and how it ends.
Well, we haven't chopped down too many trees along the way. We're almost there.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at chapter 18 today, and keep in mind, in chapter 16, we were looking at the judgment of God, the final judgment on planet Earth, the bowls of wrath, and that concentrated on the beast worshippers and the people who never appreciated God as creator, which was a call to worship him way back in chapter 14. So they were warned. So that brings us to chapter 17 in our review. And there we see the prostitute Babylon, more about her today, and you'll clearly see she represents corrupt culture. And the beast that she's riding, which is that evil spiritual entity behind all governments that eventually move in the realm of Satan.
Well, you mentioned before, this culture is riding the beast, right? Controlling the beast, if you will. People say politics is downstream from culture.
Yeah.
And very clearly, culture controls politics.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
And people think it's the other way around.
Yeah, right. It's not. Yeah. It's not. And so that brings us into chapter 18 today, which is, if we go through it, you will clearly see that Babylon, the whore, represents corrupt culture and its sociological, economical, and religious categories all rolled into one.
Yeah.
Of course, in reality, it's these fallen angels, it's the powers, the principalities, the authorities that Paul talks about back in Ephesians 6. But what is given to us is that really vivid picture of a woman who is corrupt and has illicit relationships with the governments of the world. And so the whole thing's corrupt. The whole thing's corrupt. So let's get started. Revelation 18, verses 1, 2, and 3.
After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority. And the earth was made bright with his glory. And he called out with a mighty voice, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, and a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living.
Babylon. This is a trans-historical spiritual entity. How do you like that for a phrase?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Say that again.
She is a trans-historical spiritual entity. Okay. In plain talk, she's given as a picture of all the corrupt that is in culture that has been produced by Satan. It's part of his kingdom. The other part is the governments of the world, which they need nourishing, and it comes from culture. And so now we must take a look at this long lament of the world, especially the people who got rich by her, of the fall of Babylon. So she is the spirit behind all cities in opposition to God. For example, let's go back a little bit, Revelation 11:18.
The nations raged, but your wrath came, and the time for the dead to be judged, and for rewarding your servants, the prophets and saints, and those who fear your name, both small and great, and for destroying the destroyers of the earth.
Yes, destroying the destroyers of the earth. And that will be those who are involved in the corrupt culture, who are in an illicit relationship with the governments of this world, called here, of course, the kings, and the 10 horns, which represent another set of kings that we saw last chapter. So let's remember this, Ephesians 6:12, good to refresh our minds.
For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places.
That's right. So Babylon, this adulterous city of old, becomes the logo or the trademark for the world. And there are specific sections of Scripture in the Old Testament, I'll give you just a few, but you can find them in lots of places. Genesis chapter 11, where Babel begins, the Tower of Babel,
Yeah.
which, it results in the nations that in turn get deceived.
Yeah.
And all this hangs together. Isaiah 13, where he uses that apocalyptic language you found in chapter 6 of Revelation, where the mountains move and there's an earthquake and the sky rolls up like a scroll and all that. And it's aimed at Babylon, Isaiah 13. Jeremiah 51, which is a really long chapter, is all about the destruction of the earthly Babylon back in Jeremiah's day. So,
Well, I think one of the things that we just have to be careful of, I think everyone that opens up the book of Revelation, they try to ascribe to it physical locations, physical nations, named nations today.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's the error that many people walk into is this isn't a named place. It's a representative place.
It's a representative place.
Yeah.
Right. Some people believe that because of what it says here about Babylon, actual Babylon is going to be rebuilt in the future somewhere around
Iraq.
Yeah. And we don't follow that line of
No.
thinking at all. So, and here's an interesting verse. I'll give it to you. 1 Peter 5:13. Peter's ending his letter here, and he's giving, like Paul does, say hello to Timotheus and say hello to this person, so forth, so on. And Peter says, she, no doubt referring to a church, she who is at Babylon, who is likewise chosen, and that sounds a lot like the words of John in 2 John talking about the lady, faithful lady who's at church. She who is at Babylon, who is likewise chosen, sends you greetings. Babylon here probably refers to Rome.
Mm.
But again, is he saying that Rome is literally Babylon? No. What he's saying is what Babylon was in the Old Testament has infested Roman culture, Roman world, Roman government, and wherever you see what we're seeing here in the book of Revelation, that's Babylon.
Yeah.
It's not confined to one place. It's all over the place. So she is given over to as you heard Randy read this, an abominable defilement. And the idea here is, as you sow, so shall you reap. You have defiled Babylon, the people of the world, with your illicit relationships with the kings of the world. And since you defile them, I'm going to take every kind of defilement I can think of. The dirty birds of the Old Testament, everything you can think of, and I'm throwing you and roll them all together, and you're all going down together to destruction. So, and the nations, of course, have become drunk from your abominations. In other words, they don't do rational things. Just look at the 20th century, and we can spend a history book on just all the irrational things that happen in the 20th century.
Well, when you feel like you're losing control of the thing that you value most, you tend to act irrationally.
You tend to do that. I believe that, yes. So as Randy said, politics is downstream from culture, and this is a great picture of it because Babylon is a picture of the culture, and she's riding the beast.
Yeah.
So, and she's in control, but that's going to end, as we will see, from the last chapter. So all evils of culture rolled onto her and into her to be destroyed with her. But now a warning, verses 4-8.
Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you take part in her sins, lest you share in her plagues. For her sins are heaped high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Pay her back as she herself has paid back others, and repay her double for her deeds. Mix a double portion of her in the cup she mixed. As she glorified herself and lived in luxury, so give her a like measure of torment and mourning, since in her heart she says, I sat as a queen, I am no widow, and mourning I shall never see. For this reason her plagues will come in a single day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who has judged her."
Yeah, so her destruction is going to be swift, sudden, and thorough.
Complete.
Yeah. And when it says give her double, that doesn't mean literally double it up. It means make sure she is thoroughly punished for this lifestyle she's had. So this call comes from heaven. Saints, get out of Babylon, which doesn't mean get in your car and drive down the interstate. It means you got to don't partake of her arrogance. That's the key word here. Don't partake of her arrogance. Here's a good old proverb, which a lot of us are familiar with. Proverbs 16:18.
Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.
And she says, I'm a queen, and I'm always going to be a queen.
Look at me.
Yeah. So when it says, my people get out of her, it means don't become like her. Get out of her spiritual defilement and be humble before the Lord. Well, she's going to go down, and we're going to have a lot of lamenting. So let's hear about the lamenting. Verses 9-17.
And the kings of the earth who committed sexual immorality and lived in luxury with her, will weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. They will stand far off in the fear of her torment and say, Alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore, cargo of gold, silver, jewels, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, scarlet cloth, all kinds of scented wood, all kinds of articles of ivory, all kinds of articles of costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and slaves, that is, human souls. The fruit for which your soul longed has gone from you, and all your delicacies and your splendors are lost to you, never to be found again. The merchants of these wares, who gained wealth from her, will stand far off, in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning aloud. Alas, alas, for the great city that was clothed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, with jewels and with pearls. For in a single hour all this wealth has been laid waste.
Well, now, the kings of the earth lament her swift destruction. It's not just that she was going down. I mean, we've seen that happen on Wall Street many a time, and the economy goes up and down.
All the
But
time.
this is the end of all of that.
This is different.
This is different. This is a one-time final event. And her destruction is so swift. That's what they're amazed at. Keep in mind that one of the patterns of truth throughout the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, is God is very patient, very patient, very patient. But when the time for judgment comes,
It's quick.
it's quick, it's fast. Back in Revelation 14:16, we had this.
So he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle across the earth, and the earth was reaped.
Yes, just that quickly. One fell swoop,
Yeah,
as we used to say in the old days.
one swipe.
And in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, as Paul is coming back to the theme of the second coming, he says those who are saying peace and security all of a sudden will experience sudden destruction.
Yeah.
So it comes fast, it comes thorough, and it's complete. So, and the merchants, they're wailing, of course, over their losses. And notice that long line of things, which clearly indicates we're dealing with the culture here.
All
You
that
start
stuff.
with exchange, money that is exchanged, gold, silver, jewels. Then you get into fancy
Oddities, things like
oddity
that.
structures, things for the home, things for the kitchen,
Yeah.
all the way down to what makes that culture run, which is slavery.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of slavery, not just that we know from our American history in the South, all various kinds of slavery. People were exploited to make this culture run.
Yeah.
And of course, we still see, instances of that today as well. So their whole economy and this culture, everything they were plugged into, is based on injustice. And we'll see that when we get down to the end of this chapter, where another amazing statement is made about the injustices of the culture. And so they fear her torment, but nonetheless, they don't want a part of it. But they are wailing for the fall of the great city. So let us move on to verses 17 through 20.
And all the shipmasters and seafaring men, sailors and all those who trade on the sea, stood far off and cried out as they saw the smoke of her burning. What city was like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, crying out, Alas, alas, for the great city, where all had ships at sea, grew rich by her wealth. For in a single hour she's been laid waste. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, for God has given judgment for you against her.
Right. In a single hour, it's all come down. It's all over. What is surprising here is that these merchants standing afar off and don't want to be caught in the destruction and torment, although obviously theirs is coming too, because they have no longer do they have a purpose of existence,
Yeah.
since everything was greed. Surprisingly, they recognize the fact that this makes sense. It's a good judgment, and people in heaven and the saints, the prophets, the apostles, all those rejoice because God has finally ended this horrible prostitute, this thing called corrupt worldly culture that has been in play ever since the time of Cain till now. So how shall we see this coming to an end? Let's look at verses 21 through 24.
Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence, and will be found no more. And the sound of harpists and musicians, of flute players and trumpeters will be heard in you no more. And a craftsman of any craft will be found in you no more. And the sound of the mill will be heard in you no more. And the light of the lamp will shine in you no more. And the voice of bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. For you merchants were the great ones of the earth, and all nations were deceived by your sorcery. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and the saints, and all who have been slain on the earth.
And all who have been slain on the earth. Mercy. Well, the mighty angel dramatizes this like a good play would, coming to a conclusion, picks up an ancient millstone. Those things could be really heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy. And says, this is the way it's going down. So you throw something that weighs a half a ton or more into the water that's deep, it disappears fast.
Yeah.
It's gone. So she will be no more. And that's repeated, I think, about 5 or 6 times. She will be no more. Well, what does that mean? No more sound of music. No more sound of crafting, of industry, like the mill moving, nightlife, or celebrations of life, like weddings. So all of this is going to go. Now, to make sure we understand what's happening here is, if you're a person who likes nightlife, and I'm not saying that's evil, but let's keep it in context here. Better yet, if you're a person who likes music, like I like Johnny Cash, CCR, George Jones. I like musicals. We just had a podcast on music.
Yeah. You like Phil Collins?
Phil Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that good drumming song that I like of his?
In the Air Tonight.
Yeah, In the Air Tonight. Yeah, that's almost mystical, spiritual. I should have used that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like the nightlife, well, all we're saying is this, and I'll give you an example here. This all is Babylon. This world we live in, it's Babylon. But that's what we are told to leave her, because we don't be partaker of her evils. But that's not physical distance, that's spiritual distance.
Yeah.
Big difference. So what we're learning here is that even something that is good, and I think a lot of Johnny Cash is good, and George Jones and so forth. And if you love your musicals, I love Music Man and My Fair Lady, the old ones from back in the day when these things were being done. Even what is good must go, because something immeasurably better is coming. So if you like good music, all right,
get ready.
It's gone in one sense, but it'll reappear when we get to chapter 21. The nations are bringing their glory back to the throne of God. And one of the things that's glorious about the human race is some of the most wonderful music that it's produced, or plays, or books of literature. All those things that had the essence of goodness will be still around, but even better beyond measure. Here's a good example I like to use. We just read from was it this podcast or the last one? Now I'm getting confused. 1 Peter chapter 5 at the end, where Peter says, she who is at Babylon
greet you.
Who is chosen also greet you.
One,
All right. So we said that probably that's Peter calling Rome Babylon, because Rome has the spirit of Babylon about him. And Acts 16:37, Paul and Silas have been whipped, even though they are Roman citizens. And now the local government's trying to say, you can go now. And Paul raises a fuss. Says, no way. You tell those people.
Come see us in person.
Yeah, you did this publicly. You're going to come here publicly and apologize because you did it. We're uncondemned. If you're a Roman citizen, you get a chance, like in our court system, to be heard, innocent until proven guilty. And, and we got beaten. And that's just, no, you don't do that if you're a Roman citizen. You don't get the whip.
Yeah.
You don't get the rod. And so Paul plays his Roman citizenship card. All right. And that was a good thing. That's a good thing. So we're not saying that everything in a culture is bad. We're saying cultures as such are tainted by Babylon, and they all have to go, and we'll find them on the other side of glory, renovated.
Yeah. Remade.
And all of that. Okay. So the bewitched blessings that are the person of Babylon deceives the nations and aids and abets in the killing of martyrs, the prophets, the saints, etc. And that's actively, no doubt, but also passively. When people in culture were in places of authority to do something good, but it would take courage. So just think Schindler's List.
Yeah.
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 And that's amazing. What I love about that movie is at the end of it, he's upset that he couldn't do more.
Yeah.
And that's a great picture of the right kind of spirit to have.
Yeah.
He was humbled and he wished he had done more. And they said, no, you've already rescued thousands. So please. So yes, since the beginning of time, all the saints and all the slain of the earth, not just saints, but all kinds of people have been killed. Well, this has been going on since
the beginning.
Since the beginning. So let's listen to this from Genesis 4, verses 16, 17.
Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch.
Yes. Cain was the first one to go out and build a city, and he's a man of blood. All cities in some fashion are built on blood, one way or the other. The New Jerusalem is built by God. Now, it's interesting, is it not, that cities are condemned, and especially get the book of Revelation, all cities are seen as the great prostitute, bad things, gotta go. You would think God would be done with cities, but his whole point is, you don't know how to do it right.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be done right. Behold, what's coming down out of heaven.
Yeah.
The New Jerusalem is built by God, and it's based on blood, not like Cain's blood, but the blood of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Listen to this from Hebrews 11:10, and then Hebrews 13:12 through 14.
For he was looking forward to a city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. So Jesus also suffered outside the gate in order to sanctify the people through his own blood. Therefore, let us go to him outside the camp and bear the reproach he endured. For here we have no lasting city, but we seek the city that is to come.
Yes, don't seek the cities down here on earth as your comfort zone, as your ultimate, because they will go away, and you don't want to go away with them. And so, what is the Christian expectation? And more importantly, what is it we're supposed to keep? Chapter 1, blessed is the one who hears this and keeps it. Let us be looking for the city to come. Let's not be deceived by the cities that is here. And that's the Christian expectation.
Well, thanks, Jim. Babylon represents far more than an ancient empire. It's humanity organized around pride, around wealth, around power without truth. It's a culture disconnected from God. And thank you, dear listener. Revelation 18 forces us to ask, are we merely living in the world, or are we slowly allowing Babylon's values to shape our hearts, our priorities, and our hopes? We would love to hear your thoughts and reflections on Revelation 18, so please leave us a comment or a question on the platform where you're listening to us now, or send us an email at eventsandexpectations@gmail.com. This has been Current Events and Christian Expectations, and until next time, keep looking up.